pay the ticket, you get on the ride, and sometimes you get off going, that was a mistake. Well, we're on the ride right now for the Cleveland Browns because Carson Wentz, Kenny Pickett, fine, I get it. This is now where the Browns are at, that they're having legit conversations about Carson Wentz, which is in some parallel universe, this just fits. They traded out of that pick in 2016. Hugh Jackson's there. Was it North or South Dakota? Squirting the footballs with the water at the pro day. Everybody thought the Browns were taking Carson Wentz. Well, here we are almost a decade later, and that is the option for the Browns at quarterback. We'll talk about that. We got plenty to go with the draft coming up. We got something special for you on today's show as well. Ton of Cavs to get into. All right, they lost a couple of games. We're going to get the real insight on all that with a special guest on today's show. We'll get to that coming up. As always, we'll get to the grid. Plenty of Guardians coming up as well. Happy to have you alongside right here on Big Play. Welcome to the show, everybody. I am Matt Fontana. He is Ryan Tyler. So happy to be presented by our great friends at Fairway Ford. We love you guys. And, of course, our friends at Garage Beer. We'll tell you about that coming up in a little bit. I am Matt Fontana. He is Ryan Tyler. And we have a special guest, Danny Cunningham.
Hey, man. Nice to meet you.
Hi. How's it going? Nice to see you.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, Danny, of course, Locked On Cavs. Subscribe across all your podcast platforms. Check it out. Substack. I'm a member of that, and I love getting it every. You're one of the first emails I get every single morning.
I try and make it arrive in your inbox right as you wake up.
Early in the morning.
Yes.
But for those that don't really know, Danny and I did a show together for several years over at ESPN Cleveland. We did. It was kind of a blur when you think about it. Somebody brought that up to me. They're like, how long was that? And I go, well, I did the show a little longer before you and Nick came along. And I said it was probably about I did that show fully for 4 years. You and Nick, or you were 2, and Nick was almost 2.
Right.
And somebody was like, dude, it felt like 5. And I was like, that's good, I guess. We had a lot of memories in that. So Danny covers the Cavs as well as anybody. So we had a ton of things to talk about with the Cavs coming up as well. We will get to some Browns with Danny as well. But appreciate you watching. Always follow on Twitter, X at Matt Fontana Show on The Rock. Great intro show for us last week. So we got the Immaculate Grid last week, so now everybody on The Rock thinks we just get it every
You never
week
get that right. Like that, you are absolutely setting up people to just have unreasonable expectations for the show if you got it right last week. Like I watch all the time, and you guys never get it right. You're terrible at that.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
I would just like to interject. I'm decent. I'm decent. Matt needs some work.
I do. Ryan saves our butt more than you know, because like we'll sit there and we'll struggle, and Ryan will think, I'm like, yeah, it's on you today, buddy, because we're going to do basketball.
It's always on me when I'm watching live.
Good, fine.
Listen, I am the one that is the mystery texter for that stuff.
Yes, usually. So we usually get it done. So we'll get to the grid, a basketball grid with Danny coming up, and he'll be here for the full show. Excited to have you in. So we got to start with some Browns because, I wanted to set this Myles Garrett thing aside because I don't think there's much else to discuss there. He took the money. Don't complain about it. At his press conference where everybody wanted him to just admit that he took the money, he was never going to do that. He's here. But I think the interesting thing to come out of that, other than the Jason Lloyd interaction, which was an interesting one, was when Myles, I think he did a podcast with Andrew Siciliano, and he said, I kind of have the idea, I have the plan of what they're going to do at quarterback. And as we all think about how this is unfolded, about where the Browns are at, none of us should be shocked. It kind of sucks that we're in this right now, and it's harder to sit here and actually deal with it. But if I told you, Danny, before the offseason started, that the Browns are going to be dumpster diving for quarterbacks, hopefully drafting one, you would sit there and go, well, yeah, that's probably what's going to happen. It's harder that we're in it now, and I think the big twist in this is that the Falcons actually held on to Kirk Cousins.
Right.
Doesn't mean he's not going to be traded. There are people out there that are pushing that the Browns could still trade for him. Because the thing is, dude, you give up a 4th-round draft pick, fine. I'll give that up for Joe Milton, by the way. I'd do that. You want to go get Cousins, everybody says he's owed so much money. They restructure everybody. There are people that feel like they could make a twist and finagle the contract to get Kirk Cousins in here. Is he better than Carson Wentz? Yeah, probably. Are any of these guys your long-term answer? No. it's harder that we're in this now, Danny. We're sitting here and going, dude, Carson Wentz, like that's the conversation that's going on with the Browns quarterback situation right now.
Right. It's so hard with that specific name because of the history with the name there. And I understand that everybody that was in the front office with the Browns at that time when Carson Wentz was in the draft and the Browns the number 2 pick and traded back, not necessarily still in Cleveland, but he's not somebody that you look at as good anymore. Like he had a nice run for a little bit when he was in Philadelphia before the injuries really got to him. But none of these names are names that excite me. I don't think they are names that should excite anybody. Like if you want to try and sell me on Kirk Cousins, another year removed from the Achilles injury that he had at the end of his time in Minnesota, okay, I'll listen to it. I don't know if I love it at the price that you would have to pay him that he said because of the deal he signed with the Falcons. Russell Wilson, don't love that either. But at the end of the day, when you are a franchise that cannot get it right at quarterback, no matter how many different tries you take, how many different ways you try and do this, this is the situation that you find yourselves in. Kenny Pickett, not going to be the guy. Whoever this veteran bridge quarterback is, not going to be the guy. At the end of the day, like this conversation, I don't want to say is pointless because that's not the case, Matt. Mm-hmm. But this conversation is going to change drastically when the draft rolls around and they take a quarterback at number 2, because it's going to become so much less about Carson Wentz or Kirk Cousins or Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers, if you want to throw that name in there too. And it's going to become...
I'd rather not.
I would rather not as well.
Not, but here we are, right?
But it's going to become all about the guy who they pick at 2. Like, I think that is something that we have to remember as they're dumpster diving right now. They're not dumpster diving for the guy. Yeah. The best case scenario, they find a guy in the dumpster right now, and then whether it's Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, or maybe they don't love either of those guys, take Jalen Milroe or Jackson Dart in the second round. The best case scenario is by like week 4, that guy's starting.
And that's like my soothing blanket is don't get hooked up on this. As much as I'm like, man, Carson Wentz, I don't want Russell Wilson. They're not the long-term answer. Right. So if I got to deal with it for a year, if I got to deal with this for the right now, nothing will be solved until the Browns draft their franchise quarterback. Nothing will be fixed with that football team until they draft their franchise quarterback. That is how the NFL is set up. That is the way that you got to do it. So I need to remind myself of that. Don't get so mad or angry, just like they're doing the best that they can. Now, the other problem is we know why they're in this situation and the Deshaun Watson contract and now he might actually come back and play. Why? Because they posted some videos of him working out. Why? Because you feel like he's not playing for the Browns again. There's no way that they're going to do that. And I think there is pressure on Andrew Berry about his job, right? That's another reason why I think drafting a quarterback is something that's got to be high on their list just to frankly save their jobs. Now, I want to talk drafting in a second coming up as well, because all of this stuff that's starting to change now about Jackson Dart in the top 10 and he's going to jump Shedeur Sanders and all that. I think that's good for the Browns. The more craziness that you can have, the more things start to open up, potentially even moving up to that first pick. But we're here, and I have to remind myself of this. It's the best that you can do with Carson Wentz. If that's truly what the Browns want to do, if they're trying to put pressure on the Falcons, which Kenny Pickett and Carson Wentz don't really put pressure on the Falcons, but, we'll just go start one of these guys. We don't need Kirk Cousins. And listen, I'm not saying Kirk Cousins can take you to the playoffs either. No. He's the best of some bad options.
Right.
And that's where the Browns are at right now. I'd still pursue it. I'd still be interested to see what the Falcons are trying to do there. But the thing is all these other, holes have been filled, right? Okay, so Geno Smith with the Raiders and all that, Justin Fields to the Jets. You really sit there and you think there's only 3 unanswered questions right now. The Giants, the Browns, and the Titans.
I would say Pittsburgh, too.
I'm sorry, you're right. And Pittsburgh. You're right. And Pittsburgh 100%.
Actually, do they have a quarterback on the roster right now?
Mason Rudolph. They re-signed Mason Rudolph, so they're going to go back with him. Don't worry, he'll start. So it's the same thing. If the Giants take Rodgers, then Wilson will go to the Steelers. If the Steelers take Rodgers, then Wilson will just go to the Giants.
Or the Browns. I don't think that ship has sailed.
I don't think it's sailed at all. I can't buy that. I don't know why.
I mean, is it my favorite option? Here? No, but I don't think you can rule that thing out.
Is he my least favorite option? Yeah, probably.
No, he's not. Aaron Rodgers is.
Okay. Damn, it's like we've done shows before. You got me. You're right. Aaron Rodgers is my least option, but that is so far jettisoned. I don't think there's a snowball's chance in hell.
I would agree with that.
Brian. But That is where
Clipped.
clip that. I really think that is completely gone. So like of the actual legitimate options there, he's definitely last for me. And yeah, there's also, we got to remind ourselves, Browns run through 2-3 quarterbacks every year. Like if I was a betting man and I say, if you think Kenny Pickett's going to start a game for the Cleveland Browns in 2025, I think the answer is yes.
And I would bet on that game taking place inside whatever they call the stadium in Pittsburgh now. Like just the world has a strange way of working out that way. Like Kenny Pickett's going to start a game against the Steelers because that's how Cleveland Browns football works.
That's how it
now,
goes.
As far as Kirk Cousins goes, like you bring him up as maybe the most intriguing option of, yes, a bunch of bad options. Like for me, I'm with you there because not only is he another year removed from that Achilles injury, but he also has history with Kevin Stefanski. And I think that matters. And I think that's a big part of the reason why the Browns are reportedly interested in him. Because if, we don't know what Kevin Stefanski's future looks like in Cleveland. I personally am somebody that's a big Kevin Stefanski fan. I think he's a terrific coach, but that's a different discussion. But I do think that if the Browns are in the position to where maybe he does have a lot to prove this year and maybe needs to win games and get to a certain mark to keep his job, I do think that they would want to give him somebody, aside from a rookie with the number 2 overall pick potentially, but give him somebody that he's got comfort and familiarity with. And Kirk Cousins checks those boxes in a way that nobody else does because of the time they spent together in Minnesota.
That's a little stability that I think the Browns kind of need in this. And also, I think another thing on the Cousins thing, is he going to accept taking the same role that kind of got the rug pulled out of him under in Atlanta? And here's the thing, they can't talk to him. But like to call him and be like, dude, the same thing is going to happen to you. The same exact thing is going to happen. You are 36 years old. This is kind of where you're at. Because the reports were he was ticked off when that happened, and now he wants to go somewhere to start. All right, come on in, man. But he's got to read that room, and he's got to know, like, dude, we're going to draft somebody. If you're going to come here, are you going to be cool with that? Are you going to bring the stability that they need? Remains to be seen with the Browns.
Well, and I guess the big difference here, when he signed that contract with the Falcons, Michael Penix was not on the roster.
That's true. That's very true.
And yes, if the Browns acquire him, the quarterback of the future would not be on the roster for the Browns. But I don't think he would be coming to Cleveland thinking that, they're not going to take a quarterback at 2 because of me. Like, we were all just as surprised, I think, as Kirk Cousins when they picked Michael Penix with, what was that, the 9 overall pick? Like, that was a surprising thing to everybody, not just Kirk Cousins. If the Browns, maybe when the Browns take a quarterback at number 2 overall, Matt, that's not going to surprise anybody, including whatever veteran quarterback they end up with.
It's the smart thing to do. When you got a franchise quarterback, still go draft another one. It keeps working out. All right, we got to talk some draft coming up. I've been hooked on the mock draft simulator, so I'm starting to have a little twist. I love it, so we'll get to that coming up. You know who I love? Fairway Ford Truck Month going on. You see it right there, up to $8,000 off. Over 300 Super Duties available. Here's the thing about Fairway Ford. For our fans out there, for all the great sports fans in Northeast Ohio, they will not be beat on price. They'll deliver anywhere. It's that simple. You're looking for that vehicle. You need that Super Duty. It's true. Around the corner from my house, they're doing a little excavator work. Big F-350 needed to haul that equipment there. Whatever you need. It's going to be summer before you know it. You haul a fifth wheel. That boat coming back out to the water soon, you got to haul a boat around, go get that Super Duty at Fairway Ford. You are going to get the best vehicle possible. You're going to get the best deal possible. Maybe you don't need that Super Duty because you know how I do it. I love jumping on Fairway Ford. How about this? They got a 2024 F-150 Platinum, red with the blacked out rims. That is a demo special right now at Fairway Ford. You can get the money off right now. Fairway discount straight up on the website for that truck, $11,000 off before you do anything. That's $11,000 off that MSRP. They got the best deals. They have the best service. They have the best salespeople too. Over 20 years, half of their staff has been there for 15 of them. They are experienced. They're family owned and operated. They have the best deals with the best trucks. And their pre-owned lot is just stacked with whatever you need. The Raptors, the Broncos, the Mavericks. They actually got some really good sales going on with the Broncos over there at Fairway Ford. Start your search, fairwayfordohio.com. Just add that. It's very rare that you just wake up and say, I'm going to go buy a car today. You're out there searching, as you should. Add Fairway Ford. It's a short drive to Canfield if you want to go out there. They'll deliver it for you. It's not a problem. You can do a lot of this stuff online. Start with their website, fairwayfordohio.com. Happy to have them with on the show. Garage Beer, we love them very much. We'll talk some draft. We'll do it next. Fontana Show right here on Big Play and The Rock. This draft's starting to get weird for me with the Cleveland Browns coming up because they have the second overall pick, yet it doesn't feel like they have any control. There's only one team ahead of them, but it seems so weird about everything that's happened. You feel like you have the 20th pick. We'll talk about it. Welcome back. Fontana Show right here, part of the Big Play Sports Network. The Rock, our friends at Fairway Ford and Garage Beer. I'm Matt Fontana. We got Danny Cunningham in for the show. Ryan Tyler here as well. Danny, second overall pick, but doesn't it feel like we still don't even know? And it's not that this is the drafts of the past when the Rams cut the deal with Sam Bradford the night before the draft and everybody knew he was going one. The uncertainty about what the Titans are going to do, I feel like the Browns almost have no control over this, and they have the second overall pick where there's cases about Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter, and okay, take Shedeur Sanders. Now Jackson Dart's a big riser, and I saw Jalen Milroe 40 yesterday. We all saw that at the Alabama Pro Day. Like, all of it's crazy that we only have one team ahead of us, and I really don't have an idea of what the Browns are going to do.
Right, and I think so much of this is because of what the quarterback position looks like at the top of the draft. Like, can you sell me on Cam Ward as a potential franchise quarterback?
How much time do you got? Because I'll do that for you.
But it's not as if he is this,
he's not Andrew Luck.
Awesome prospect.
Ryan
right?
loves Shedeur Sanders.
Like,
go ahead,
Shedeur
Ryan.
Sanders.
Tell Danny why you love Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah, sell me on him.
What's not to love about Shedeur Sanders? You have a kid who now is welcoming Cleveland. You go to two programs, Jacksonville State and Colorado. You completely turn them around. Listen, he didn't go to some Big Ten school. He didn't go to some SEC school. He went to a program where, yes, he had five-star recruits like Travis Hunter because of his dad, but the other players around him, Jimmy Horn's a good player. He wasn't thrown to a Mecca Buka. He wasn't thrown to Jeremiah Smith. He made everybody around him better, right? The levels between a guy like Shedeur and Will Howard is monumental. I want a guy for once who wants to come to Cleveland. I don't care about the smoke about Deion Sanders coming into the locker room and causing a muck.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. This is the NFL. Shedeur wants to come to Cleveland. I want to embrace it. He's a damn good quarterback. Doesn't have the arm strength of Cam, but sometimes you don't need that. I think he'd fit perfect with Kevin Stefanski.
It's interesting that I think Shedeur, I don't know, tell me how you think about this, Danny, because Ryan and I have talked about this. I feel like Shedeur was riding high during the season and even after, because most of the season was number one overall pick. Don't even think about it. Then, right about the East-West Shrine Bowl, he didn't work out, which is fine, and nobody worked out at the Combine.
Right.
Then it started going down for Shedeur. Now I feel like we're back on this rise back up to him, and the rise is back up for Jackson Dart. Cam Ward's the one that I think has gotten washed up a little bit and maybe not talked about so much. You're right. The Browns have got to make their honest evaluation of these guys, and I guess it's hard because some people don't trust Andrew Berry to make this evaluation. And I'll say this. If they're in on Shedeur Sanders, you take him at 2. I just want Cam Ward. That's my guy. I'd like Cam Ward, but he ain't going to be there. He's going 1.
I would be surprised if Cam Ward is there, unless, we don't know what the Titans are going to do. Maybe they trade. It sounds like they're not going to be able to trade with the Giants.
I got a smoking gun I just read the other day.
Well, inform me.
The Titans didn't sign any quarterbacks.
I can.
They told they told everybody what they're doing. Now again,
That's
it
fair.
might be Shedeur.
I would
Who
be
knows?
surprised.
I
if
don't
that were
think
the case.
so. But the fact that I just read, I want to say it was Albert Breer, and Breer's mailbag is so great. I'm QB. The Titans didn't do anything at quarterback. They're telling you we're taking this guy and he's actually going to start day 1 for us.
Yeah.
I think that writing is on the wall, unfortunately.
Yeah, I can see that. And maybe that leaves the Browns with Shedeur Sanders. And I think there are some very fair questions about him. I don't know that he is the prospect Cam Ward is. I don't think he's a bad prospect by any stretch of the imagination either. I think the arm strength is probably something that is a little scary when you talk about, especially for, who knows how many years this team playing right on the lakefront where it's a difficult place to play.
Yeah.
And there are not very many easy places to play in December in the AFC North where you will be playing half your game. So that does matter. And then, I also think that he maybe hangs onto the football a little bit too long.
That's
if you look at what he did in Colorado. And yeah, that offensive line was not great, but I don't know that he necessarily did them any favors in college. That said, he is extremely accurate, and that is something that I'm a big believer you can't teach. Like, there are just very, very few instances ever where a guy was inaccurate in college and then gets to the NFL and suddenly becomes a better decision maker and a more accurate passer of the football. One of them just won MVP in Josh Allen.
He worked out.
But he is the exception to the rule.
Well, and you got to coach, though. No matter what, Shedeur, Cam, anybody, you're going to look at Kevin Stefanski, you're going to look at Tommy Rees and go, you got to fix this guy up. And that's going to be a huge leap there. But at the end of the day, I'm coming back to this over and over again. I just did a mock where I'm like, all right, take Abdul Carter. I think he's the one that if, you really don't have a good vibe on these guys, just take Abdul Carter and call it a day. But if you are in on one of these guys, go get a quarterback. We've been void of a good, not void of it. We've had good quarterback play time. You need a quarterback. You ain't going anywhere without one. They decide one of those guys. I'll get on board. Ryan, I'll go buy a Shedeur Sanders jersey if that's what it's going to be. I'm on board. Go get the quarterback.
So let me ask you this, Matt. How much do you trust the quarterback evaluation of Kevin Stefanski? Because I do think that he has, for the most part, and Deshaun Watson is the exception to this, but for the most part, I think he's gotten the most out of every quarterback that has played for him. How much do you trust him to evaluate whoever they might pick at 2 and be, maybe not the sole decision maker in that process, but have a large voice in it?
I trust him. Andrew Berry, I don't know. I trust Kevin Stefanski, make that best pick, and also knowing what his system is, fit that, and go get him. All right, Danny's here. We got to talk a lot of Cavs with him. 3-game losing streak. All right. We got some guys sitting out. The race to get that number 1 overall seed, some games getting played with the Thunder, sitting out some of those guys for that draft pick. We'll see where it all goes there. Nothing but basketball with Danny. We'll do it next. Fontana Show right here on Big Play The Rock, presented by Fairway Ford and Garage Beer. All right, let's get to some Cavs. No better person to have in on the Fontana Show this week than Danny Cunningham. Welcome back, Fontana Show. Matt Fontana, Ryan Tyler. On Twitter, at Matt Fontana Show. You can always check us out on YouTube, at Big Play, Instagram, Big Play. Download the Big Play app for all of our content. And happy to be right here on The Rock. So, Danny, tell everybody, Locked On. Get it anywhere. YouTube, you're on Spotify.
Wherever you get your podcast.
Wherever.
Apple,
just
Spotify, anywhere else. Just search Locked On Cavs on YouTube as well every single day. Talking a lot of Cavs basketball. There's been a lot of good things to talk about, man. There have been, of course, lately some not so good things with the Cavs being on their second 3-game losing streak of the season. It is
teams do that in 2 weeks. We've gone 3/4 of a season with 2 3-game losing streaks.
I mean, that 57th win is just so elusive. Who could have imagined?
I don't care. I said this. There is no loss on the way out that was going to upset me about this team because I feel like I know who this team is, what they do well, and I get the vibe that they know that, and they know what they need to do to beat teams, to be competitive. Yes, they're sitting out some guys. Yes, this is a West Coast swing. And I saw what Donovan Mitchell had to say after that Sacramento game on Wednesday. He goes, listen, I don't like losing, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he says, these are the things you got to go through. These are the things that we need to find out about ourselves and go through some adversity because I'm not saying everything's been, roses and sunshine here with the Cavs. They've had to go through some stuff, but they've avoided the big injuries to this point. They have been able to rest guys on the way out here. And I get that there's a chase to be had for that number 1 overall seed. 70 wins is done. I was never really thinking that was a possibility. And I want that number 1 seed, but I also don't really care. Like, I'm happy about what this team is. And yeah, there might be some concerning things. Danny, you tell me, man, you watch this team, you cover this team way better than I do. Like, I'm just watching this all the way. I think I know who this Cavs team is.
Right. I think the larger sample size of the season has obviously been great. Now, the last week, I think the entire month of March has not been all that good. So they've played, as we, sit here talk right now, they've played 10 games in March. They're 7-3 in those 10 games. You look at that and say, yeah, that's pretty good. But this team has won a lot of games in part because they've been one of the best offenses, not just in the league, but of all time in NBA history this season. And in March, they're 11th in the NBA in offense. Like, they have slipped on that end. They're not shooting the basketball that well. I don't think Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell, who have missed some games for rest purposes or minor injury purposes, I don't think that they've been playing their best basketball. And I do think it's hard for the Cavs to operate when their 2 guards, neither of them are playing well. I think if one of them's not playing well, they have enough depth, they have enough talent to overcome that and still be an elite offense. But when both of them are not playing well, it's a really challenging thing. And I think that has been the biggest thing for me. I think they've been a little inconsistent defensively. It's hard for me to say, oh, they're not good enough defensively. Like, since February 1st, they are first or second in defense in the NBA. They've been really, really good on that end. But I think for me, the offense has taken a step back. I think they've missed some shots. And I look at that as this team is kind of tired right now.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because
yeah.
March is a brutal month for them where they have 16 games in a 29-day stretch. And I do want to ask you, of the games the Cavs have played in March, what is the game that you think they've looked the best in? Like, as somebody who I'm going to assume you've watched all the games they've played this month.
I've not stayed up for all the 10 o'clock games.
Okay, well,
but,
it's
yeah,
obviously as they've not won one of those games, that's not an answer here.
No, and I think it kind of comes back to some of the, like, that Portland game where it was like they were lollygagging for most of it, and then when they said, all right, we're going to put our foot down here and finish this game out, then they had it, that Miami game. Like, there's a couple that I look at. It's not the total of the game where it's like they were messing around and then put their foot on it and finished it on out and got that win. And that's when I think for that stretch, they look the best that they have. I want to ask you about Garland because I think you tweeted this.
Well, hang on. Let me
go ahead. Yeah,
finish this point.
Go ahead, yeah.
The answer to that question is the game against Memphis.
Yeah.
Right, where they went on the road. It was a Friday night in Memphis. They beat the brakes off the Grizzlies. And that final score is not indicative to what that game was because the Cavs' end-of-bench guys got outscored by 11 points in the final 3 minutes. So that game looks much closer than the 20-point victory it actually was with the starters. You know what happened before that Memphis game? The Cavs had 2 straight days off. Like, this is a team, and that to me is a sign that they are a little bit tired. Like, it's been a long season. It's been a long season for everybody. But when you add that in with the 3 losses that they've had, and I don't think that they've played much differently in these 3 losses than they did the 5 wins after the Boston game that we just talked about with Portland, Miami, Chicago, Charlotte, Brooklyn. Like, they didn't play well in those games, but those teams are all bad. And Orlando is maybe a slightly below average team. Sacramento is a team that's fighting for playoff life. LA is a team that's fighting for playoff life. Like, those teams have a desperation that the Cavs can't fake right now. And I think that's a big part of it too. You see the offense slipping, and to me that says, this is a team that's pretty tired right now, and I just think they need some rest.
I want to ask you quick about Garland, because I know you sent this tweet about that floater just seems off from him. And it's it almost seemed like he was pressing a little bit. And Mitchell, he'll figure it out. DeAndre Hunter's been great to the addition of this team. Ty Jerome's been awesome. Ty had his off game, though, where I think he went a little hero ball and was feeling himself just a little bit. It's fine. I ain't knocking Ty Jerome. But Garland is the one where I go, that of all the guys, he's the one that I need to get figured out before the end of the regular season. Just hit that shot, get that floater back. Danny, do you really think it's finally just coming down that he just keeps getting hit in the face and just getting bodied up? Like, are you worried about Garland right now, or is it just he'll find it?
I don't think there's much to be worried about, and I think if you look at the last 3 games that he's played, I think he's been much better than the stretch before that. So he injured that hip on that nasty collision with Karl Anthony Towns in the game against the Knicks that was at the end of February. Like, that game was almost a month ago at this point. It was the second game back from the All-Star break. And then he missed a couple of games and went into a shooting slump where he was playing poorly offensively, was not able to connect from 3. And the thing that stood out to me was that his floater was down, because that's an area where he's made a killing this year. Like, he just gets into that mid-paint area and is devastating to teams. And when that's not going down, I think his entire offensive game changes because he can't rely on that. That's almost like his pet shot, if you will, which is just like he's comfortable getting to that spot. He's going to make it more often than not. When that goes away for a little bit, that can be a difficult thing to deal with. Over the last couple of games, he's been much better in that area. And I know he didn't play against the Kings, and I do wonder if we're going to see him when they play the Suns on Friday, if he's going to look like a much more refreshed and rejuvenated guy. I think that is very much something that could be in the cards. But the last 3 games, 7 of 17, you'll take that. Like, that's not an ideal night. 8 of 16, that's solid. 6 of 14, again, not ideal, but trending up from where it was, where he was putting together 4 of 16s and 7 of 22s, 5 of 12, 4 of 10, 4 of 13. Like, he hadn't been great. I do think he's turned the corner. Now, is he back at all-star form yet? No, but he's got time to get there. The Cavs don't need to be playing their best basketball in mid to late March. They need to be playing their best basketball in late April, all of May, and early June. Like, that's what matters here.
Speaking of that, who are we going to be facing in the playoffs? I want Danny to look around the NBA, some of the other teams, Thunder, Lakers, Cavs finals. Everybody would love that. We'll talk about it next. Presented by our great friends, Garage Beer and Fairway. Ford Fontana Show. Back right after this. All right, we're in the playoffs. We know that. We clinched it so long ago. What's that path going to look like? Fontana Show, welcome back right here on The Rock, part of the Big Play Sports Network. Got Danny Cunningham on the show this week. You can follow him on Twitter at RealDCunningham. Subscribe to his Substack, Locked On Cavs. It's everywhere that you need. So the number one seeds as it goes right now, you know, Danny, you and I did a Locked On before the season. And I said the Knicks were going to be the number one seed in the
bold
East.
pick.
And I was like, man, I really feel it. Okay. The Cavs... Like, I don't know, are you shocked that it's the Thunder out west? I guess that's I was going to ask you, what's the more shocking, the Cavs leading the East or the Thunder leading the West? It's got to be the Cavs leading the East.
It's definitely the Cavs. Like,
be.
the Thunder were the 1 seed last year.
Yeah.
Like, OKC's been really, really good for 2 years now. And, of course, like, the thing that is, I do think a little unfair to the Cavs about a lot of the national media saying, well, they have to prove it in the playoffs. And, listen, they do. They've not done it in the playoffs. But that same conversation doesn't exist with the Thunder, despite the fact that how many games further into the postseason did the Thunder get than the Cavs last year? One. They lost in the second round in 6 games. The Cavs lost in 5 games. Now, the Thunder had more of a chance, I think, to win that series against the Dallas Mavericks in their second round than the Cavs did against the Boston Celtics in their second round on the Eastern Conference side. But OKC's not done it either. That said, I think that they're a great team. I think they are probably the most likely team to win the finals, but I think part of that too is if you look at who the Cavs have to go through in the East, and I think that the first 2 rounds, it would be shocking if the Cavs did not get to at least the conference finals, because I think
that's minimum. That's Eastern Conference Finals is the minimum. And I listen, I know we're going to talk Boston here in a second, Danny, but it's a minimum Eastern Conference final, and I really think this Cavs team has got to make the finals. They just have to.
Well, there's the Cavs, there's Boston, and I think there is a canyon-sized gap between the Celtics and, if you want to say the Knicks are third, the Pistons, the Bucks, the Pacers, whoever you want to put as that number 3 team in the East. There is such a big gap there. But the Cavs and Celtics, I think, are on the same level. In the Western Conference, it's OKC, and then there's that gap between everybody else. And yes, there are teams like the 5th best team in the West would probably be the 3rd best team in the East. But there's such a big gap between 1 and 2 out west that if OKC doesn't win the West, that is a huge upset. And just I think that their path to the finals, while the path to the conference finals might be a little bit difficult depending on matchups, they don't have to go through a pier, if you will. Like the Cavs, the Celtics, and the Thunder are all in that first tier, but 2 of those teams are in the Eastern Conference, only one's out west.
And I keep waiting for the Nuggets to wake up, and they just, maybe I was fool's gold on that. Like, I know the Lakers are obviously rocking with Luka and LeBron coming off his injury and all that, but you're right. It's just, you want to talk yourself more into what team can, I guess we got to talk ourselves into teams out west to try to compete with the Thunder, where I know for a fact that the team that the Cavs have to compete with in the East is the Celtics. Yeah. You're waiting to see who's going to show up with the West. And same thing, how that series goes. What do you show earlier that gives a team a matchup, an edge, things like that. It all comes down to the playoffs, which, again, I like it that the Thunder are a little bit more on our equal level of, like, yeah, they don't have a ton of experience, and they're kind of in the same boat as us, where the Nuggets been there, won one, right? Even the Lakers been there, done that. Like, that's a team I kind of want to avoid those. I'd rather face the Thunder. I would, as good as
I would
they
not. I think if you're a Cavs fan, you want anybody but the Thunder.
Really? Okay.
West. Because I think look at what OKC does and how they win. They win with defense. And historically, if you want to go and look, and we are getting way ahead of ourselves for, potential finals matchup here. But historically, Donovan Mitchell struggles against Lou Dort of OKC more than anybody else in the NBA. He's the guy. He's the guy that gives Donovan Mitchell, I think, more problems than anybody else that has defended Donovan Mitchell throughout his career. And that is something that you look at and say, okay, that could be a problem. I look at if the Cavs see OKC in the finals, for the Cavs to win, Evan Mobley needs to be the best player on the Cavs. Like, in the conference finals against the Boston Celtics, considering what Donovan has done against Boston, not just this year where he's got 4 games above 30 points against them, but throughout his career where he is the all-time leading scorer in terms of points per game against the Boston Celtics in NBA history. Did
not know that.
Like, that's an incredible stat, right? So I view that as, okay, Donovan can go be the best player in that series. Against OKC, I think that's a much different thing. And if you look at the Lakers, yeah, they've got LeBron, they've got Luka. We don't really know what that looks like together yet because LeBron got hurt. If you look at Denver, yeah, they've got Nikola Jokic, the best player in the world right now, like by consensus. But who do those teams have to defend on the perimeter against
Yeah.
the Cavs. And more specifically, when you look at the Lakers, who do they have to defend the rim? Like, they don't have answers there. I think that those teams, their blueprint to beating the Cavs would be trying to get into a shootout. And the Cavs are going to win shootouts more often than they're going to lose them. But if you see OKC, a team that's going to say, no, we want to hold you below 105 points, that is where I think that there could be problems for the Cavs.
No, like you said, we get there. That's a good problem to be having. Who we're going to face in the finals. All right, we're going to flip the grid. We're going to do basketball because Danny is here. We got it last week on football. Immaculate Grid comes your way next. Fontana Show, Ray, your Big Play Rock Network. Let's get to the grid. All right, it is grid time. Ryan and I on our debut show on The Rock last week got football. We head over to some basketball because Danny's in. Here's the Immaculate Grid. It's this easy. You got to get a player that has played for both those teams, only one team. They've had to have appeared in a regular season game. We got messed up on football because a lot of players have moved and haven't played a game yet. Basketball, it's primer.
Yeah, tough time of year to do football.
I'm going to be leaning on Ryan and Danny in this one because basketball is not necessarily my foray. We got 5 minutes to do it. Go! All right, one team. Jazz.
We could just do.
Could do Isaiah Collier.
Great.
Could do Walker Kessler.
Oh, yeah, Walker Kessler. Yeah, there you go.
Pistons,
All right,
Cade.
I would do Isaiah Stewart. Everyone's going to say Cade.
We don't really go
Yeah.
for the rarity score. So
Oh, you guys are no fun.
That's
That's
we
next level
struggle to
stuff.
get the easiest ones. Kings. Not Sabonis.
No, Sabonis played for OKC and Indy.
And then they got rid of De'Aaron Fox.
De'Aaron Fox has not played there. Has Keon Ellis played anywhere else?
I would have to know who Keon Ellis was to answer that.
So you did not watch last night.
No, I did not.
I watched Markelle Fultz. I forgot. Yeah,
He made a quarter three, man. I was stunned that ball
Dude,
went
that
in.
little hit. All right, we don't have time. The hitch in his
All right, let's go to other ones.
All right, let's go. Let's open this up now.
Celtics, Jazz. Am I tripping or is that Gordon Hayward?
Gordon Hayward did do both, yes. Joe Johnson did both, too.
Joe Johnson is like
But he
the
played for
Josh Johnson
everybody.
of this. Joe Johnson should work.
Blake Griffin played
Blake
for the Pistons and the Celtics.
Mm-hmm.
Or Danny Ainge. Or no, never mind. Danny Ainge played for
What
the
is
Kings
that
and Celtics.
picture of Blake Griffin?
Played for the Celtics, man.
I
That's who he
know.
last played for.
It doesn't even look like him. It looks like
Danny Ainge played for both the Kings and the Celtics.
That looks like a bad 2K player for Blake Griffin there. Good pull on Danny Ainge. All right.
Nikhil Alexander-Walker played for the
Oh my
Wolves
God,
and the
that's-
Jazz.
okay.
Well, you
Go
got to
ahead.
think, okay,
No,
they
I-
made the Mike Conley trade. Who else was involved there?
Alexander Walker.
Yeah,
there we go.
Nikhil Alexander-Walker.
Who? That guy.
Derrick Rose played for both the Pistons
Oh,
and the
yeah.
Wolves.
That's a good pull there, yeah.
And
We're
then,
moving.
Nemanja Bjelica.
I'm sorry.
N-E-M.
I'm sorry.
N-E-M.
Don't tell him how to spell it.
What is it?
N-E-M.
Uh-huh.
Bjelica. Last name starts B-J.
It's
I
the
can't
first
see
guy. It's the
yeah,
first
top
guy.
one.
It's
I
the
can't
very
see
first
the
guy.
screen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that guy. All right, go ahead.
Wait,
That's all
has Keon Ellis played for anybody else?
You
Well,
better-
I mean, who is that?
So
the-
welcome to the grid because we always get down to the last one. And you start second guessing yourself and wondering. I will be of no help on this.
I mean, well, who did the Kings just draft last
Right.
year?
I mean, the one rookie they had a great game last night, 16 points. I think his last name was Carter.
that'll be.
Let me
a
look
hard
up the
find.
box score. Because I know.
Hey, that's cheating. You
No,
can't
it's
do that.
not.
It is too.
Looking up the box score from last
you
night
can't
to know the
Google.
guy's
This
first
is
name.
This is there's sanctity to the Immaculate Grid here.
Is there
Yes, there is.
sanctity when I text you the answers?
Did you find him?
It's still coming up.
Anybody else?
Devin Carter.
Devin Carter. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
2025.
Wow.
That's a solid rarity
That's
score
a
as well.
solid run on the Immaculate Grid there. We would not have been-
Congratulations to me.
Yeah, that honestly, I'm glad. Yeah, if we would not have been able to do that with you. So well done. Now we're 2 for 2 on the rock.
Yeah, hell yeah.
You wouldn't have gotten Danny Ainge with the Celtics. And
Dude,
the
I'm not
Kings.
kidding you. I don't think I would have gotten. I think I would have gotten Derrick Rose. I really sat there and struggled.
Well,
and
I
thought
covered
about
the
it.
Wolves once upon a time.
I
Like,
know you did. Yeah, so that works
I
out.
was there for a lot of those guys.
Yeah, that works out. So well done on Danny. We got the Immaculate Grid. All right, final break. Be back right after this. Wrap it up with you. All right, welcome back. Fontana Show right here, Big Play Network. You can always check us out on The Rock every Friday from 4 to 5. Follow us on YouTube. We're at Big Play. Instagram is at Big Play as well. So happy to have Danny Cunningham in this week. Wanted to wrap it up with some Cavs here as we get towards the end of the regular season here, Danny, and then get into the playoffs. What is the one thing that you are circling the most? Whether it's like, this is what the Cavs do really well. Like, this is going to be a loaded question. What do the Cavs got to do to win a championship?
They have to be the best offense in basketball, and they have to be the defense that they've been since February 1st. Like I mentioned, since February 1st, they are a top 2 defense in basketball. It's kind of been fluctuating between them and the Detroit Pistons. I haven't looked at the numbers today. I'd venture to guess they did not move up after allowing 123 points to the Kings on Wednesday night. So that is something. They need to be a better defense than they were early in the season. And the thing that I've been tracking, Matt, is where do they rank defensively from February 10th on? Why that February 10th date? Because that's the day DeAndre Hunter made his team debut. So what they look like on both ends of the floor, are they a top 5 unit offensively and defensively from that point on? They've been the number 1 offense in the NBA virtually the entire season. Right now, they're in a little bit of an offensive lull. I don't think that's something that's going to carry over to the postseason. I would expect that by the time mid-April rolls around, that looks back to normal. But they just need to be the same team they've been in the regular season. Because, yes, OKC's great, but they are historically good too. And if they're that in the postseason, they have as good of a chance as anybody to win the title.
What flips do you think the most? Like, we've been to the playoffs with past teams. This team themselves have been to the playoffs and they learned. I was thinking a lot about Kenny Atkinson and what that flip is, because sometimes you're right. You want to be the same team, you know what you do, but the playoffs are so different. And I wonder what Kenny Atkinson, I don't want to say an ace up his sleeve, because I think he's got his rotation. You play 8, you trust 7, that you know who's going to be in there playing for this team when it comes down the stretch. But I just wonder a little bit about Kenny Atkinson and I can't tell you how excited I am to see this Kenny Atkinson team. I know what they are in the regular season. I cannot wait to see what this team is in the playoffs under him.
Well, I think the ace up his sleeve is playing his best players more, because one of the best things Kenny Atkinson has done this year is he has limited minutes for Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen. Donovan Mitchell's playing 31.4 minutes per game. That's the lowest figure in his entire career. That's going to be boosted in the postseason. Typically, you're better when your best players play more. The Cavs have been able to survive the regular season without doing that. I think those numbers are going to go up in the playoffs, and the Cavs are going to be better because of it.
I love it. Danny, really appreciate you, man. Again, Locked On Cavs everywhere, Spotify, YouTube. You can watch the video on there. You get a lot of great guests. You can always subscribe as well to your Substack at Real D Cunningham on Twitter is the easiest way to find it, right?
Yep, or just search The Inside Shot on Google.
There it is. You can find it there. Appreciate Danny coming in. Appreciate everybody joining us. As always, you can get the show, the full replay, up on YouTube. You can check us out on Twitter at Matt Fontana Show. Big Play for YouTube channel and Instagram, and download that Big Play app. We love you at GarageBay. We love you at Fairway Ford. And we'll talk to everybody next week. For Danny Cunningham, Ryan Tyler, I'm Matt Fontana. And as always, take it easy.